eXp Realty just dropped a bombshell, and it's going to change the way that leaders within the eXp organization collaborate with each other and open up the way for more opportunity for those who are aligning with us both now and in the future. And in this video, I'm going to share exactly how co-sponsorship works within eXp. You're going to understand what co-sponsorship is, how it works, and what some of the use case scenarios are for someone who might want to consider utilizing it. And if you're new to the channel, my name is Tyler Roicki. I run a real estate sales organization within eXp Realty called The Herd, and that spans over 30 states, 3 countries. At the time of this recording, nearly 300 members. And related to the topic of this video, we're talking sponsorship. I'm actually at this time ranked number 5 in the entire eXp organization of over 80,000 agents in terms of agents personally sponsored who are active within the company. I'm number 5, and so this is something I'm very much knowledgeable in. This is my area of expertise, is sponsorship. There's not many more people who know the ins and outs of it to the full extent I do, just by helping other real estate agents navigate the opportunity we have here with eXp Realty and doing that successfully. So co-sponsorship is something that is going to absolutely change the game for certain people in certain situations. And so the way it works is when you're joining eXp Realty, you're going to name a sponsor. And the sponsor is the person who's most influential in your decision to join eXp Realty. And now with the co-sponsorship program, it's going to give you the opportunity, if you're joining us, to name a co-sponsor once you're onboarded. So that's something you're going to want to do right away, because when you're joining on the application, you're only going to have a primary sponsor on the application. So if you want to add a co-sponsor, it's going to be something you'll want to do immediately once you've onboarded. There's going to be a request that you can put in to get the co-sponsor added. But the key thing to know is the primary sponsor is intended to be that person who is most influential in your decision to join the company. But what if you're in a situation where you're almost torn? What if you have like a friend or someone who's been very instrumental in your journey in real estate up to this point, who's with us with eXp, who you want to be aligned with and working with, but then what if there's someone else who you believe is going to be pivotal in your growth from this point onward? And it could be for a variety of reasons. It might be someone who is very knowledgeable in that local market you're working, and maybe that friend or colleague or personal connection you have, maybe they're in an entirely different market, but you understand they're with eXp, they can help you. Another situation is, what if there is a certain niche that you want to tap into? What if there's someone that can bring added value within that niche above and beyond that which your personal connection brings to the table? Or what if there's someone who's very influential? They're someone who's coaching and training, and maybe they're a YouTube influencer and they're sharing so much added value, and you want to be a part of their community and group and tap into that added value, but you're torn because you have this buddy, you have this colleague, and you want to be, you don't want to have to choose. Well, eXp just changed the game, because no longer do you have to choose. You can work with both of them. One of them can be your primary sponsor, the other can be your co-sponsor. They can work together to help you win, and both of them are going to see the complete upside that comes as a byproduct of this. And if you want to better understand how that works, eXp did something very innovative, because others, there's other companies out there that have done something like co-sponsorship, except it works completely different, because they're just dividing the revenue share. And it might not seem like a big deal, but fact is, if you have multi-generational revenue sharing model and you're dividing the revenue share across a bunch of tiers, like at some point you get to a point where your revenue share, it's in pennies. Like it's literally fractions of a dollar at one point if you divide it enough times, because that's how it just maths out. Like, half of a half of a half of a half before you realize that you're talking a small fraction. And add to that the fact, if there's a portion of it that the company retains for being able to provide that, it's completely different. So in a nutshell, the difference is with eXp, it's not division, it's multiplication, because literally we're not splitting the revenue share. Instead, what eXp does is when you have a co-sponsor, they're inserting that co-sponsor into the organization. So you have the primary sponsor. So typically when you're a primary sponsor and you bring an agent into the organization, they're going to be on what's called your tier 1. And then the difference is with the co-sponsors, when that agent who's coming into the organization names a co-sponsor, instead of it being on the primary agent's tier 1, that sponsored agent's going to drop down to their tier 2, and the primary sponsor, or the co-sponsor, is going to be inserted on the tier 1. And so effectively, it creates a situation where both the primary sponsor and the co-sponsor are aligned in the revenue share organization. And so the primary sponsor retains the FLQA credit, that's the frontline qualifying agent credit. They're going to get the stock award when that agent closes their first deal with the company, and the co-sponsors going to get the benefit of having the tier 1 revenue along with the first year bonus that comes with that, because there's 50% bonus. 50% of the revenue share dollars gets paid out on tier 1, so that amounts to $4,000. If someone's doing capping production year 1, that's a bonus above and beyond what the typical revenue share would be on a tier 1 agent. So the co-sponsor is going to get that. They're going to get the full tier 1 revenue share, but they're also going to get all 7 tiers of revenue share that could be built out with that agent who's sponsored in the organization as their co-sponsor. Now, the one thing that makes this all work is the revenue stops there and it does not go to the co-sponsor's upline of senior partners. That's not the case with the primary sponsor. The primary sponsor's upline of senior partners sees the revenue share, and then the primary sponsor, they get access to tiers 2 through 7. That's how it all works in a nutshell. And just some key things in use case scenarios to revisit that, because I think that's the most important thing. I don't see this, if you're watching this, assessing what co-sponsorship is, and that's like the one thing you're trying to figure out before you join eXp. I'm going to tell you this. Do you need a co-sponsor? No, you don't need a co-sponsor. This is a program that exists to be utilized in scenarios where it makes sense for you to utilize it. When you have 2 people that you want to be aligned with within the company. Like, so for instance, perfect use case scenario would be, hey, you've got that friend or colleague or someone that you have that relationship with in the business. They're with eXp, but then you have this other person on your radar that you see providing added value above and beyond what that personal connection does. You're in a situation where you're almost torn. Do I go with my friend or do I go with this person I think can really contribute and help me out? Previously, you would have had to make a choice. Now you can be aligned with both of them. Only question is, who's your primary sponsor and who's your co-sponsor? Who does it make the most sense to have as your primary sponsor? Because you've got to understand your primary sponsor's upline of senior partners is going to be invested in you and your success. The co-sponsor's upline of senior partners is not going to be invested in you and your success, not in the same way, because they're not sharing in that revenue share dollar. So use case scenarios, I met someone at a mastermind I attended recently who actually is one of the very first co-sponsored agents. For her, it was a difference maker because she's a luxury agent from a firm that would consider themselves a competitor to eXp's, and the co-sponsorship was the deciding factor for her because she had a connection with someone in the eXp organization that wasn't a luxury agent, and he was able to bring in one of our top luxury agents into the conversation, and that was really the difference maker for her to feel like she truly had alignment. That made the difference in her deciding to come on board with us at eXp and align here. So that's a prime example of a great use case scenario. Another scenario is if you needed that added local support, if the primary sponsor or your personal relationship with someone at eXp was outside your market and you really felt like you wanted to get plugged into a great local community and there was a co-sponsor who could bring that added value, that could be another scenario. Do you need that? I'm not going to say you need that, but it might make the difference for someone out there seeing this, depending on where you're at. And then, another great scenario that I could see this applying a lot in is, let's say you're a residential agent or vice versa. Let's say you're a commercial agent and you've got a great relationship with someone who's not, but they're with eXp, they're plugged into the organization. Well, maybe we could bring a commercial advisor into the conversation as your co-sponsor. They're gonna be aligned with you and your success and they're going to bring some added value to help you best navigate the commercial realm, which is where you're familiar. I could see that being a great use, but there's different situations. Another one, probably last example I'll share, is like it could be another country. So say I make a connection outside of the United States, I can bring in a co-sponsor who's in that country, who's a leader in that country, and then they'd be aligned with that local agent. If I initiated that conversation and got it started, I could bring in someone who is that local expert to help bring that added value and ultimately get someone across the finish line and truly be able to get plugged into the local community resources and way of going about things that we have. And so that's how co-sponsorship works. And a couple other things to know about it is, the one thing is, if you're a sponsor, your co-sponsor cannot be an agent in your rev share organization. So that would prevent double dipping. So you can't co-sponsor with someone if they're in your 7 tiers beneath you, but otherwise it's pretty well open to collaborate with anyone else in the company. If you're exploring eXp Realty, if you have a great connection here, great. If you don't, I'd love to be that contact, that point of contact for you, and see how I can best help navigate things. If you have a sponsor in mind already, I'm not going to say you need a co-sponsor, but if you're exploring that and trying to assess what makes the most sense for you, I'd love to have a conversation and see what I can do to bring some added value, if anything at all, or just to be someone who can answer any questions you have above and beyond what you're already finding in your own research with it. So if you'd like to speak with me or connect with me, you can send me an email or get in touch with me. It's easy to reach out and connect. And biggest thing I'd ask, really all I'd ask, go ahead and subscribe so that you can follow along more of the resources and insights I'm sharing in the future to help you build your business, your life, and to maximize the opportunity you have with this real estate license in your hand. So all that being said, my name is Tyler Roicki. Thank you for watching the video, and until next time, I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video.